Beautiful. Well, happy Thursday and welcome to everybody that is joining us live in this amazing community meetup where once a month we have a special guest that comes in and shares a little bit about their story, their success, and things they're doing to challenge the status quo. And then, of course, the other meetup during the month is a check-in. So if you could be part of either of those, we'd love to have you be part of the conversation. This is led and curated as part of the GoDaddy small business community, which is designed to help enable and create awareness so that people can have a more abundant life online and create connections, reaching through the screen, in person, in real life. And again, for those that are listening, those that are joining us, you can come cameras on, cameras off. No judgment. We want to have a conversation with you. We want you to be present, and we want those that are here gifting us their time to feel supported as well. So, Stephen, one of the first things we do, and you guys, I'm very, very excited to have Stephen Andrews here with us today. One of the first things we do is we like to have everybody that's on the call introduce themselves to you first so that you know who showed up to be part of the conversation and can be felt and supported. And then, of course, we'll have you introduce yourself so that we can get some familiarity with who you are and why you're joining us today. So I'll lead that dance. My name is Adam Griggs. I have a software as a service company called Clarify. I really love creating and moderating these meetups because I feel like the conversation in small business is always ongoing. It's always evolving, and it's so much fun. And I cannot appreciate everybody enough for being here, and of course the GoDaddy team for making this space, one that exists and is protected and safe for us to talk about. And I'm going to pitch it over to my friend Patrick Kagan.
Thank you, Adam. Now I still have to clear my throat. Stephen, I'm very excited to hear what you have to share with us today. I'm Patrick Kagan. I'm the founder of PK Solutions Group. I'm an author, I'm a podcaster, I'm a coach and consultant, and I specialize in sales and leadership and teams. And I'm just super excited to hear about your book and about what you're offering and what you're doing. And I'm just glad to see everybody in the group today. So thank you. And Adam, I think I'm supposed to popcorn unless you're going to pick somebody. So I will popcorn it over to my friend in the West Coast, Susan Husa.
Thank you, Patrick. Hello, everybody. Stephen, I'm excited to hear what you are going to be sharing with us today. And I work with Christian women leaders. I generally help them overcome the obstacles related to confidence. And I currently am hosting a group on a small business platform called Alignable. And yeah, I live in Washington State, and I'm an empty nester. And I'm excited to be here. How about Jeffrey?
Yes, I'll go. Hi, my name is Jeffrey. I'm based in Austin, Texas. I am a marketing manager on a content education team at GoDaddy. So live webinars, live LinkedIn events, social media events. That's me. And glad to be here and glad you're here as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And of course, those that are joining us, cameras off. If you would like to introduce yourself, I can open that up now. Autumn, if you're here.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, I'm Autumn. I'm excited to be here. There's a couple more people this week or this time, so I'm excited. I'm in San Diego. There's no storms here right now. Hopefully not coming soon, but let's see. I am with GoDaddy. I am on the office of the CEO social media team. So happy to be here. Thanks for everybody that's joining.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And Jonathan or James, I know you guys are kind of working remote as well. If you want to introduce yourself real quick, I'd love it.
Hi, I'm happy to. Hi, this is my face. Hello. I'm Jonathan. I work on the GoDaddy team on their OCEO side. I work with engagement strategy. So how do we show up on social? How do we handle conversations? How do we handle crises, reporting, all that kind of stuff? And yeah, I'll be on and off today, but I am right here, and I'm working with this community has been another one of the big aspects of my job. And working with Adam and and Patrick and Susan, I know so many of these people for so long. And Stephen, we're really, really grateful to have you here and chatting with our community today. Thank you for being here. And I will pass it off to our last, I think our last one, James.
That's me. I'm James. I'm also on the GoDaddy team. I'm part of the content and education team with Jeffrey, and I am leading the brand social strategy, content planning, everything social for GoDaddy on the brand channels there. Excited to hear what you have to say today, Stephen.
Perfect. Thank you, James. And thank you to everybody that's introduced themselves. Again, this is a conversation. If you have questions and comments, drop them in the chat. If you want to speak to something that's happening mid-conversation, raise your hand. I mean, this is a community meetup. We are here to have a conversation. And I'm so excited to introduce you guys to Stephen Andrews. Stephen is an author of The New American Dream. He is a leader in entrepreneurship. He's creating learning modules for people to follow in the footsteps of what he's done. So, Stephen, I would love it if you would shed some light into exactly who you are, a little bit of backstory if you want, and then we can get the ball rolling. I'll ask you some questions.
Absolutely. So my name's Stephen Andrews. I'm from North Carolina, Central North Carolina, Piedmont Triad, kind of in between Greensboro and Raleigh, if you know where that's at, in a small town of Elon, North Carolina. If you know Elon University, people think that the town is Elon University, and it kind of is, but that's where I'm from. Been in real estate a decade. Started out $75,000 in debt. Most of that was student loan debt. And then I made a great wise investment as a 22-year-old to buy a brand new car right out of college. And believe me, that investment really paid off, right? But and I was making $45,000 a year. I knew I wanted something more. And so I was able to link up with a local investor and got a mentor, and fast forward a decade, hundreds of rental properties later, flip houses, loan money, to now writing The New American Dream, a simple roadmap to purchasing investment properties that became a bestseller, which I'm super excited about, to then launching SOARX Consulting as well to help kind of that next generation get into the rental business and have success at it. It's just been a complete 360, and mentorship's helped me so much to get in this business, and now I'm being able to mentor others, and it's just been so much fun. And I was telling Adam before we started on this, I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later, but my company is also doing a giveaway where one lucky winner is going to have a chance at winning $500,000 in January to go towards real estate as well. So just a lot of cool things going on right now, and it's just been a lot of fun.
No, I appreciate that. And obviously, we hear the stories, and sometimes we see the players online, right? The scroll feeds that we get all the time, but knowing somebody that I've met and worked with, it's a totally different feeling. And one of the things I want to shed light on is Stephen, how did you and I even get connected?
Yeah, a mutual friend, right?
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about business, right? If you continue to network and continue to have great friends in this business, if that person can't help you, 9 times out of 10, they know somebody that can. And that's just the fun part that I've loved over the last 10 years. And I tell people all the time, build authentic relationships. It's not a one-sided relationship, right? It needs to be mutually beneficial for everybody and be genuine about it. And that's the one thing that I've learned over the last 10 years. And I hope to continue to learn how to do that as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's one thing that I want to harp on is because we are a community of people. And at the end of the day, business is business. But if you want to grow your ability to reach through the screen, to create real connections and relationships, you've got to do so by meeting the real people, right? Sometimes kneecap to kneecap, sometimes reaching through the screen, and sometimes we fly to meet and have lunch, right? I love that because at the beginning of this month, we started with the GoDaddy group. We had a small business week where we highlighted the ability to take your business to the next level, to take the leap, to really challenge yourself, to create something new. There were a lot of wonderful speakers that were challenging the way that we think about business. And one of the things that I love is inviting authors on, because we have authors with us, by the way. There's multiple authors on this call, which is just fantastic because I feel like I'm surrounded by greatness and I'm a little bit intimidated, but I love speaking to that. I mean, this is a question I want to ask you. What do you think was the moment you realized I need to write a book? And what gave you the confidence to do so? If you don't mind answering those for me.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a couple of years ago. So this was during the pandemic, and, everybody's questioning everything that's going on around them because nobody ever thought that a country could shut down for 2 years and people survive and kind of get back to it. But I had multiple different realtors and multiple different new investors come to me and say, hey, people want to know what you know. Don't know how you want to do that. Don't know if you want to write a book. Don't know if you want to do a course or get into coaching. But People want to know what you know because people want to get into real estate. I mean, real estate's kind of that new thing where there's this whole new generation, especially the younger generation, that's what they want to get into. And so I started thinking about that, like, all my different scenarios that I've been in, and how could I offer that to someone else? And I was like, you know what, let me go for it. Scared half to death though, because I've never wrote a book before. Writing is not my strong suit, but I was able to surround myself with people that knew what they were doing, that helped produce this book and get it promoted out there. And that's really what business is about, right? Surrounding yourself with people that know far more than you, to get you to where you want to be at. And so I put pen to paper. Writing a book takes about a year. And so I started this, I guess it was now 2 Februarys ago. And then it was released in March of this year. And it's just been so much fun. Ton of work, but so much fun to be able to kind of take things out of your mind that you might not have actually wrote down before, to actually put pen to paper and put ideas that's going to help people have success just like you have. And I'm a firm believer, somebody can't be successful just on their own, right? I mean, it's so hard to not have anybody in your corner, where if you surround yourself with people that know far more than you, and people are investing in that, everybody can have success if you put the time and energy into it. And I have to, my mentor, Joel, that lives here in Elon as well, that helped me get in this business. If I didn't have a Joel in my life, right, I wouldn't have had the success I have today. And I think a lot of people forget that. And I think a lot of people, when you see that on social media, right, social media gives you that 15, 20 seconds of someone's life. They're like, everybody, I think the natural progression is, oh, they must have done that on their own, or, oh, I can't do that. But in reality, you can do that. It takes hard work, it takes determination, it takes a little bit of luck. But I think the luck is on your side if you do all the right things, and you surround yourself with good people. And so it really inspired me when those people reached out to me, and I said, I need to do something. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for somebody that helped me. And there was a book that I read over a decade ago now, Building Wealth by Russell Whitney, which inspired me. I mean, it really gave me the roadmap on how to buy investment properties, how you roll your money from one property to the next property. I mean, it was just a roadmap. And it was no fluff. It was to the point. And that really inspired me to write the book that I have the way I did.
I love that. I love your approach to why you decided to not just write this book, but launch your course leaderships and some of the things you've got going on in tandem with that, because you're speaking to mentors that really helped motivate you and inspire you. And really, that's, I think, what gives most of us the confidence to make changes or make hard decisions in life, is somebody pulled us into it, or they yelled at us enough and said, hey, the world needs this from you. Get out of your own way and do it. And I think that that's a powerful thing, especially when you're building inside of a community, or you're looking for a place where you can feel confident and kind of take that next leap. And, they always say that, I'm an overnight success, only 10 years in the making, right? But I think it goes a little bit further than that. It's you're on the shoulders of your mentors. You're on the shoulders of everybody you're surrounding yourself with. And because of that, because we are literally the outcome of the people we surround ourselves with, and when we elevate that identity, like there's so much of a ripple effect there that we miss. And I love when leaders like yourself, Stephen, write a book that specifically talks to that. And I'm going to draw a lot of parallels on your book too. I think your book does speak to real estate investment, but there's a lot of parallels in there to the American dream and running your own business and controlling your own time, right? Because really that's what it's all about, is giving yourself options and controlling your own time. In your book, you speak on a couple of chapters about preparing for the unthinkable, which I think most of us don't want to do. You speak about getting familiar with locals, which is where we find so much of our strength. And then you talk about, when is enough enough? Like, why do I want more? I think that those are the 360 when you're thinking in line with creating a business, creating your own time clock, your own outcome, and getting yourself out of the way of either working for somebody else or being at the whims of an economic downfall or a change in technology or whatever it might be. And I really feel like a lot of what you've written aligns with those that are trying to take back their own lives. Can you speak to that a little bit about your book and how you feel like that aligns to that?
Absolutely. real estate's such a fascinating business to be in, and there's so many parallels between real life and what business really is, right? You know, it takes hard work, determination, whether you're in business or whether you want something personally. Being familiar with the locals, you know, having that relationships is what makes you not only successful in business, but also makes you successful personally, right? You know, friendships, you know, when I think about life, and if you didn't have family and if you didn't have friends around, what would life even be, right? You know, so, you know, if you don't have anybody to enjoy it with, if you don't have those authentic relationships, it would be not a very fun life. You know, you're probably not going to be around very long, right? And then at the end, you know, the last chapter, I wanted to leave people with when's enough enough. And so I think there's a huge movement in this country right now. Fortune 500 CEOs are being polled. Was it worth it? Was it worth spending your entire life to get to the top? And a lot of them are saying right now, you know what? I'm in my 70s, I'm in my 80s, and I've spent my entire life to get to the top. I've chased kind of, there again, Smart's the spot. It's almost like a ghost, right? You never really truly get to Smart's the spot. It's something that's just a moving goal. And what they're saying is, you know what? I didn't have very good work-life balance. I missed birthdays. I missed Christmas. I missed anniversaries. I missed vacations. And you know what? Maybe it really wasn't worth it, right? Like, I wanted to get to the top. I still have that drive, but I also have to enjoy the journey. And so for me, my company's SOARX, it's all capital letters for a reason. It's not about where you start. It's not about where you finish, but it's really about the journey in between it. Because I feel like, even for me, and this is something that I learned on my own through my own trials and tribulations, is when I first got in this business, I only wanted 10 rental properties. I just wanted some secondary income. And then 10 became 20, 20 became 40, 40 became 80. And it just kept going. And I started to learn, I was like, you know what, I'm never going to be satisfied. Like, I have to do some internal work, right? That I have to understand that, you know what, I'm never going to be satisfied. I could have 1,000 properties and I'm never going to be satisfied if I keep that same mentality. And so it really starts to get you thinking of, you know what, if all I did my entire life was to work to get to whatever level I wanted to get to, I'm missing out on every blessing throughout life. You know, there's things that you want in life, especially personal, whether it's family, whether it's friends, and different things that you can do, and things that you thought about years before, you actually currently have, but you're so fixated on what can I have next. And so that's really what that chapter is about. And for me, I have a saying that I don't live to work, I work to live. Meaning, I don't get up every day, oh, I'm excited to go do this just to go to work. Like that's not why I do it. I do it because I want a better life. And so I want to be in a position where, you know, I can better my friends, I can better my family. If I want to go see my friends that live in Tennessee or Mississippi or Florida, I can go do that because that makes my well-being better. But I don't do this just to accumulate a bunch of stuff just to give it away when I die, right? And I think that's a huge mind shift change, where there's some people that says, you know what, I just want to accumulate a bunch of stuff to give to my kids when I pass away. But for me, why do that? Like, why do you get to spend your entire life to accumulate all this stuff just to give someone else, and that other person's going to enjoy it? Why aren't you enjoying it? And so, perfectly okay to have huge dreams and admirations, but enjoy the journey when you do it. You know, don't get so caught up on, hey, I got to get to this Smart's the spot, because you're not going to be very happy. I wasn't very happy, right? You know, when I was like, you know what, it's just a constant roller coaster of like, all right, I got to 50 units. Well, I really want 60 units, you know, so you're just never satisfied. And so when you start looking inward and you start doing some work with yourself, you start to really appreciate life and appreciate the blessings that you do have, because really life's really all about perspective, right? So, you know, the way I start comparing this is, all right, you have to compare yourself to something. Don't compare yourself to someone else, because you're certainly not going to be satisfied. But think about, for me, I thought back to my early 20s. If you would have told me when I'm 35 years old, I'd have several hundred rental units, I'd flip houses, I'd loan money, I'd write a book, I would launch a business coach business. Would I be satisfied? Would I be proud of myself? Absolutely. But when you're in it right now, it's like, hey, I could do more. But it's like, you know what? You could always do more. So, just make sure you kind of reflect and not worry about the world, what the world tells you, but worry about what you're telling yourself and what you want out of your own life to make you happy. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. I don't do any of this to put on social media for somebody on social media. Oh, great job. I'm happy for you. No, like I want to be happy for myself, because even with somebody telling me, oh, I'm proud of you, sometimes that still doesn't make you happy, right? I mean, you still got to be happy for yourself.
Yeah, no, I cannot support that and align with that anymore, Stephen. I mean, one of the things we've got, and you said a sentence in there, looking at right now, like where you're at right now, right? You're looking at your past self. You wanted to be where you are today at some point in the past. And so many people take that for granted, and we always want more because we're comparing, right? And comparison is the thief of joy. And one of the things that I love that you harp on is that this is a community of differentiation and really creating alternative outcomes, right? It's not about the end of the roadmap. It's not about the treasure map, finding that X marks the spot, and then you'll be happy for the rest of your life. It's about creating quality of experience, creating the quality of being abundant in your life and being present, right? So many of us want to control our time so we can be present. And that's what we're looking for. It's not about being some massive global, Fortune 500 in the future. And maybe it is for some people, but that's not what this community is about. That's why we have these check-ins every month, so we can be real and be human and feel safe. And you mentioned that, seeing your friends and seeing the people brought a smile to your face. When I got on this call today and I saw Susan and I saw Patrick and I saw Jeffrey, like automatically I feel good inside. Like it just makes me feel like this is a quality amount of time that is spent with people that I like and I want to be around. I want to have these conversations with. And I love that you're leading that with your book and you're leading this with your courses, because you're creating something that is a different route to giving yourself time back. And I know that the book is really on real estate, but really it's not about controlling your time and giving yourself options, right? It's about creating the American dream of, it's my life. It's my canvas. I get to paint it. And Patrick, I know you've got your hand up, so I'm going to pass it over to you in a second, but I got to share a story with you. Before this meetup this week, I went to an arts festival this past weekend, and I really love art. And there's so many different formats and styles of art. You go through and there's people that work with wood, there's people that work with metal, there's abstract art, there's people that do funny art. And there was a picture that I passed by, and this guy, he does pastel art, and I had to buy it because it was a picture of Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride as a Walmart greeter. And it was like, it blew me away. And I was like, why did you paint that? He's like, well, what does life look like after you get what you want? Like, Life After Revenge is the title of his art. I was like, that's wild, right? You think about the identity that we carry with ourselves when we identify as our work, as opposed to as a person. And you start challenging, what am I after? Like, what am I really after? When is enough enough? Why do I want to do what I'm doing? And is it okay to dial back the noise so that I can have amazing quality relationships with my clients, amazing quality engagement with my employees, my colleagues, amazing outcomes with my community? And if I can create these opportunities for others to learn, I can be a mentor. And you're stepping into that, Stephen. And I really, really I appreciate you for that, because there's nothing funny about the clock running out. We can joke about the identity shift, right, with that fictional character, but at the end of the day, if we end our lives and we have no idea who we really are, and we've been married to one thing our entire lives, it's a difficult place to be, and it can create despair, and it can destroy the memories of a beautiful life. So yes, I would challenge everybody, look up in the now, think about where you were at, look at where you're headed and why, and then ask the questions. What can I do to make my world and my community better now? So I'll pass it over to you, Patrick. I know that was long-winded. I appreciate you guys for listening to me.
Adam, I could listen to you all day. That was good. That was a good summary. I love everything I'm hearing too, Stephen. And it sounds like while your book is written about real estate, it's not just about real estate. So I love that. I also love the title of it, The New American Dream, because it isn't the new American dream. I mean, since we lived in caves and we're running from dinosaurs, who's got the better cave, right? So, but it's a new awakening to what I think you're writing about, which is, enjoying abundance versus wealth, and community versus, your individual counting of your coins. A lot of the folks that I run into, they speak about abundance after they've arrived. They speak about being present and being aware after they've overcome their hurdles. But when they're in it, that all sounds like a really good presentation, but that's not the real world. Yeah, but always comes up. Yeah, but I have to go do this. Yeah, but I have to pay my bills. So I find that there's this tug of war between what sounds like I should be doing, what I should be doing, and what I really have to do. So I'm curious for you, was there a particular turning point? Was there something that the light went off and you said, I'm going to go become this, and you built this life of abundance and thinking about the greater good? Or did you arrive and then you look back in hindsight and wrote about it? Could you maybe elaborate on, was there a turning point, or did you made it big and then you can look back and tell others how to do it?
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? So I know when I first got started, I was just on that hamster wheel, right? It's like, I don't have time to sit back and enjoy this, or sit back and just enjoy life. I didn't have that mindset. But certainly a couple years ago, when I started thinking about writing a book, and maybe even, I would say probably 6 to 8 months before that, I started thinking about, do I have enough? Like, what does that look like? And for me, it was one of those times, I just woke up and I started having this thought in my mind. Like, you know what? Would I be proud about where I'm at if I knew where I was going to be at, 10 years ago, fast forward 10 years, and this is where I'm at. And it was just one of those things that I couldn't get the thought out of my mind. And so I just wrestled with it for probably 6 or 8 months. And I was like, you know what? Like, I really got to dive into that, right? I mean, that's not something you can just answer, sitting at the dinner table one night and you think about it 10 minutes. I think it's an evolution kind of over time. And but it was hard initially. I thought you had to go 100 miles an hour, 365 days a year to be successful, because that's what I did to become successful. But then when you really start thinking about it, it's like, now you don't actually have to do that. I mean, there's ways to still be successful and you not running 100 miles an hour. I tell people, this whole journey, it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. If you sprinted a marathon the whole time, you're never going to make the end. And so it's one of those things that I believe everybody has to find out in their own time, right? I think some people, depending on your upbringing or depending on how you were brought up or your early years, you might have different things instilled in you. I know for me, looking back, my parents were business owners and they're in a landscaping business. And so hard work was instilled very young in my life. And you know what, you work until you get the job done. That was instilled in me at a very young age. And hey, that's great when you're building a business, right? Work until the job's done. But guess what? In the business I'm in, and in most businesses, the job's never done. So, you really have to, even put a lid on that, put a cap on that with each day. I know being in real estate, you're just never caught up. I mean, I could work 24 hours in a day and I'm still not going to be caught up, right? It's just because something else is always going to come. And I think that's with any business and really with life in general. But for me, I had to get to a point where I ran that race, and I started to think, like, you know what, I want something more than this. Like, I didn't sign up for this. I started out in retail store management and I was working 12, 13 hours a day. And I was like, you know what, like, I don't want to work 12, 13 hours a day. If I wanted to do that, I would have stayed in retail, so it was just me trying to figure out things as they came. And I think everybody figures that out at a different point. But to your point, it's much easier to recognize it once you recognize, or once you get to the top, it's much easier to recognize that. But I try to challenge people to try to find it out sooner than I did. And so how you find out some of that is, don't look at Facebook and Instagram and compare yourself to people, right? That's a 15-second, 20-second glimpse of someone's life. I have to compare yourself right now, 18 or 25, and are you doing what you wanted to do, right? Like what your dreams were. And so I think when you start doing that, when you start to reflect some, it helps you get to that point much faster. than if you just continue to run that race and you never reflect. Then you know what, you're going to be doing this 10, 15, 20 years. And at some point you're like, okay, I'm burnt out. You know, my body's forcing me to reflect. And I've also had friends that have done that too. You know, that, you know, I've said, hey, don't you think you should reflect and figure out, you know, is this exactly what you wanted, or are you living out your dreams right now? You know, I don't have time to do any of that. Well, at some point, I believe your body forces you to do it, just because then you're just burnt out and you don't have a choice but to do it.
That was a great question, Patrick. Honestly, I think it does go back to, if you're managing discomfort just to stay successful, you're probably in the wrong position anyways. And if there's a transition in life, there's a reason why you're looking for more, but maybe it's not more of what you think it is, right? And I think that's what Patrick's alluding to, is it wasn't more rental properties. It wasn't more work 24 hours a day. It was, how can I become more of a mentor? How can I affect the lives of others? How can I write this book? How can I get some course leadership out there and give back? And then you realize that was the success I was looking for. Like this, I might have taken control of my own clock, but really, what was the meaning of why I did this? It's to give other people the opportunity for that. And yes, reflecting is like, it is invaluable. Taking inventory is invaluable. I mean, Patrick, you and I constantly on these calls, every month we check in, and sometimes off these calls, we take inventory of where we're at and what's actually going on. And there's so much value in doing that. There's so much like grace that you're giving yourself, because you start to realize how far you have come, and you stop comparing yourself to the Joneses and looking at the doom scrolling and all that stuff that could be eroding your identity and eroding your success and eroding your gratuity. So I really appreciate that question, Patrick. I think that was, you know, well thought and well spoken, and great answer, Stephen.
Well, what I think too that I like about what Stephen's saying is that, you know, so many of us, we're trying to climb that ladder, that corporate ladder. We're climbing the ladder, and we do look over and we try to go a couple rungs higher than the person that we're looking at. And at some point, everybody's going to realize they're climbing a ladder that's leaning on nothing. There's nothing it's leaning on, and you can't fill it up. So he's describing the American dream using real estate as the vehicle, but the American dream is fulfillment, grace, abundance, happiness. And he's describing all these happiness gaps. And I absolutely am a fan of what you're saying, Stephen, about stop and take inventory, because you're never going to arrive, but you're going to have a lot of stops along the way. So isn't a stop kind of an arrival? So I like what you're saying.
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further. Like, I think, you know, certainly with age, right? You know, when you're 20, you're like, you know what? I want all the fancy stuff, right? I want the fancy car, the fancy house, the fancy boat, all the fancy stuff. And as I get older, I could care less about that stuff, right? Like, that stuff is just, it doesn't bring happiness. I mean, it might bring happiness for a few days. You get to drive around in it and that sort of thing, but it's not long lasting happiness. And so I think as you mature, as you age, like the definition of happiness for you changes over time, right? You know, when you're younger, it's certainly one thing. When you get a little bit older, it's certainly something different. And I think you just learn that through your own experiences and becoming more mature about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's a lot of perspective in that. And I would challenge anybody that is listening to this, of course, if you haven't gotten this book, get the book. I think that it's valuable to think about options. It's valuable to create that awareness. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is allow others to step into their own next best selves, right? Shed the skin, time to metamorphosize, right? Become this beautiful thing that you're setting yourself out to be. And, you know, Susan's got her hand up, but one of the questions I do want to ask you, Stephen, is when do you know that it's time to quantify how much building a community or following would be worth to you? Like, how do you know that you are in the throes of, now it's my turn to be a mentor and create this leadership and draw people out of the shadows, right? We talk a lot about lurking leaders in our community. How do you draw others out of their shell and give to them an opportunity like what you've given yourself?
That's a great question. And I don't necessarily know if I have the answer to it, right? You know, it's, you know, when I think about 2 years ago, when I started hearing this from realtors and other investors, hey, people want to know what you know. I wasn't necessarily thinking about at that point in time when they started asking me that, how I could turn around and write a book. You know, I wasn't even thinking about a book. How could I launch a consulting business or a coaching business? I wasn't necessarily thinking about that. I do think there was a part of me inside of me of like, okay, do I have enough? There was a transition kind of going on in my own life of okay, what does abundance mean? What does happiness mean? And that sort of thing. And I think it just kind of all aligned. And then I believe that, the universe works a certain way, right? It doesn't matter what you believe in, right? But I believe that there are times in people's lives, there's a thought that pops in your mind and you just can't get rid of the thought, right? You can do whatever it takes to try to get rid of it. But for whatever reason, that thought just continues to just drive in your mind. And I believe that's the powers to be in the world that is trying to lead you down a certain road. And that's kind of the way it was for me. I had this thought in my mind, and then people started saying, well, hey, people want to know what you know, and maybe you need to write a book. And then I was like, it took me a couple more weeks and a couple more months. And then I started talking to a book company and a publishing company. And I'm like, I still don't know if I want to do it. And it just kind of evolves, right? And I think everybody's evolve is going to be different. Mine looks a certain way, but the next person's might not look that way. The next person might be, somebody comes directly to them. Hey, I know this is out of your comfort zone, but I need you to be a coach. People need you, that sort of thing. And people have been very successful doing it that way. But for me, mine didn't necessarily look that way. And it was just, it was an internal battle. Okay, which way do I go? Am I just okay with what I've done so far and start really enjoying life? Or is it like, what, can I do that, but can I also give back? And it was certainly an internal battle that lasted several months, but here I am. It all worked itself out.
I appreciate that so much. Everybody's evolution looks different. I mean, if that's the takeaway right there, just remember, everybody's evolution looks different. Create that opportunity to grab life and take control of your options. Thank you for that. Susan.
I'm just loving everything that you're talking about here. Yes, evolution, right? Personal development. So I wrote some notes down because I want to stay on topic here, but what came to me was over time, our values change. I remember I wanted the boat and the 4-wheel drive and the what was it? The Cadillac. I'm aging myself here, but I remember those days in my 20s where I had a whole different idea about how life was going to be. And then we get a reality check, right? So I do believe that our values change over time, and it sounds like you can agree with that. And what is important, and you mentioned this, is meeting people right where they are in their own developmental stage, right? Which is what happened with you. You were in that stage of even noticing that your body was reacting to this 100 miles an hour, right? So I thought that was beautiful that you brought that up. And when you can't not do something, that is honoring the piece of you that you offer that distinguishes you from others so that we collectively help one another. So anyways, that's what I had to offer. Thank you for this wonderful discussion.
Absolutely. Beautifully spoken. I appreciate that so much. Jonathan.
So I'm echoing Susan, like so much of this has resonated and I've been, I've been tuned in the whole time. I love what you said this earlier, and then this is also what we were just talking about, and I couldn't help but think these two really tied in earlier. And I love anyone who talks about how important it is to love the journey when they've gone through it, because that's like, that's the thing, right? Like we all would love to have success. We know that for sure. But like knowing that it's going to take many steps to get there, and loving is maybe a tough word, but being able to really appreciate it and recognize like I'm getting better, I'm growing. And I couldn't help but think of that when we also were just talking about how everyone goes at a different pace. And I kind of love that sort of like, there's a juxtaposition there, but there's also a lot of like, we're all going at different paces and we're all doing different things. but there are so many parts of building businesses and entrepreneurial journeys that fall in the same motions. And like, it doesn't matter what business you're building. If you are taking stock of the ride, if you're really taking the moments to think, I'm growing, I'm investing in myself, there's just such a, I couldn't help but think of just like the camaraderie between in any avenue of entrepreneurship. And I think that's just such an important, that's one of the biggest takeaways I have from this. Even earlier talking about how you are so successful and you've done so much of that yourself, but you immediately credited Joel. You immediately talked about how you can't do this yourself. And that ability to like check your ego in that way and to sit there and go, well, I haven't slept all week. Like, I'm not giving credit to someone else, but that idea of still recognizing, right, but I'm up doing the work because someone has enabled me to believe that I can. All of this is really tied in with a little bow. And I can tell why you have achieved as much success as you have, Stephen. This has been a really wonderful conversation.
I appreciate it. I'll even take it a step further that you have to be humble about it, right? Because everybody is one bad decision away from a completely different life, right? And so you just have to be humble about it. And I think that the people that I have seen be very successful have been the humble ones. The ones that not only enjoy the success they've had, but they enjoy the success of other people. They just enjoy life so much more. Yeah. And because you're not comparing each other, you're rooting for those people. And instead of comparing or, you know what, I want to outdo that person. It's just a completely different mindset.
Mm-hmm. Totally. There's almost it's interesting because talking to so many entrepreneurs, as Adam said, we had a small business week, a series of sessions recently, and so much of what I've learned about entrepreneurship, maybe even in the past 2 years, it's so much more about camaraderie than competition in a lot of ways. And obviously, like, you want to, differentiate yourself. But I think with online and the way that sales are, there's so much saturation in so many types of businesses that it really does just boil down to authenticity. Like, do people want to work with you because you're humble, because you're nice, because you have all this success, but you're still attainable, right? You haven't made yourself an other. And that is such a huge factor, right? That barrier of entry is such a huge part of this. And I do, you've touched on all of it. And there's a lot of value here. There's a lot of value.
Now, I appreciate that, Jonathan. I think, this has been a fantastic conversation. And first of all, Stephen, thank you for gifting us your time again. I cannot harp on that enough. This has been a conversation. I mean, obviously we're talking a lot about where you started in life, what you've built, why you've created this following, why you've published this book. But we've also had an opportunity to interject our own thoughts and perspective into why we're in business. And really, it does come down to giving yourself the options in life to lead the life that you want to. And camaraderie is a strengthening portion of that. It's a reason why we do what we do, not necessarily to compete, but to give ourselves a life that feels good. And balance is something that is abstract. It is something that is different for everybody. You have a blank canvas, go out there and paint or slap wood on it or throw glitter or cut it up, whatever it needs to be for your piece of art. I mean, I know that's a little bit abstract in the metaphor, but really that's what it is. I mean, you created what you consider a roadmap for people to follow you, right? And there are people that are going to do that. They're going to jump on board and they are going to follow you like a blueprint. And there are others that are going to take your blueprint and they are going to interpret it and they're going to build their own life and they're going to create that awareness, right? Raise that radar on what's possible. Jonathan, yes.
Sorry,
you can just wrap it up.
I'm sorry I had to troll you. I know exactly what you mean, but I was just like, wow, that's it. Put the next book, Adam. I want that to be the full quote.
I love it. I love it. And Susan, yes, balance is a choice. And I think so much of what we have is we have to give ourselves back the opportunity to be aware of that choice, right?
Yes, balance is choice. That's
Really?
how we balance our life. It's people think of it. I don't know how, I would love to hear what everybody's perspective is on that. But, that's something that I learned in coach training is, balance is all about choice. What are we choosing? I mean, Stephen, you touched on that a lot in everything that you said today. So yeah, can't preach that enough.
I mean, even sitting there and saying like, I was feeling effects in my body. Like you can have as many ambitions as you want. If the vessel is not working, you know what I mean? Like if you can't execute because you are burning yourself out, you're excuse me, you're doing a disservice to everyone, yourself included. So I do really love that. It's almost like we have to do a little bit of this reprogramming that, there's this like whole idea of like this hustle culture. And I think there's so much of that is really valuable, but there's also so much of it that like is distracting and destructive. And I think is intentionally trying to make people think that there is one specific way to go about doing something. And it means working yourself into the ground until you can't feel anything. And that also goes back to what another thing you said earlier that I really appreciate, Stephen, is like about how you have to, again, you have to enjoy the benefits of your labor. Like you can definitely, like, don't get me wrong, I've got a 401k, right? Like you know what I mean? Like I'm planning for the future. I definitely want to like build a nice legacy for myself, but you're right. Why the hell am I working so hard? If my life is work, where's what else is there? So that I really also really, really like that. And that's such a way to, again, it doesn't mean that you have to like, blow all your money on yachts, but that idea of just like, no, I was just talking to my friend the other day whose aunt is like this like legendary investment banker in New York City. And she's like spooky. She's really nice when you're her family, but she's like spooky investment banker. And every now and then she'll just be like, I have to go away. And she'll just be like, this is too much and I simply must go away. You will see me in 3 days. And she goes somewhere and just fully disconnects. And she, perhaps a caliber of person that is maybe a bit rarer, but that idea of even like the highest echelons of people who are working 80 hours a week because they like live and breathe it, even those people who are the most successful sit there and they go, nope, the time to myself is investing in the success of my business. It just is.
Yeah, well said. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, and I appreciate your time, Stephen, and I appreciate the energy the community has brought for this, because contemplating next in life is a constant thing for all of us. And we like to have different guests with different, options, different walks of life, different experiences share with us, because that's what helps us grow. That's what helps us create awareness and camaraderie and stop the illusion of I'm better because of XYZ. It's we're better because of you and me, right? It's never going to be 1 + 1, against each other. It's always going to be about community, and I can't harp on that enough. We are at the end of our hour. One of the things we always do is we always open it up for final comments and kudos. And Susan, I'll let you, speak to that if you want. And then Stephen, before we close it out, I would love it if you would share on next steps for people that want to follow you. So Susan.
So I agree that we're always looking at what's next. Something else that I learned is, rather than thinking of what's next, how is it that I'm being, right? So how am I being in this moment? What is this? Am I feeling distracted? Am I feeling like I'm not going 100 miles an hour enough? What is it that's there for you to be fully engaged with what it is that's going on internally? Stephen, you touched on this. It's just presenting it in a different way. And then because when we're coaching, that was always the big thing is, well, I don't know what's going to be what's next. And that's always it was always a trick situation to be in the coach when I was in my training, because it's not really about what's next. There's this stirring going on. And so taming the beast within, right, that allows us to have that capacity to get down to the point like you referred to, Stephen, as just being fully confident and aware and being able to name what it is that's going on internally, so that there is this natural next thing. Thank you so much, Stephen. It was such a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Susan. It's a great thing for us to take away and sit with, honestly. Jonathan.
What's the next book going to be about?
That's a great question. I don't know.
What next?
Yeah. What is the next book? What is it? I want to know. Or have you started ideating around it yet?
I have not. No, I do have a kind of more of a peer accountability partner. So one thing for me, to Susan's point, right? You know, you always have things going on in your body that wants you to do something else, right? And I have a guy that I told about 2 months ago to. I said, listen, I'm launching this book. I'm doing business coach, but if I come to you and say I'm doing this next thing in the next few months, you're telling me no. You got to help me say no to it. Because for me, it's just, I want to help people. I want to do the next thing, but sometimes you got to take a step back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Because if you get spread way too thin, then you're not going to do anything very well, right? You know, you're gonna do a lot of things halfway. And my parents taught me at a very young age, don't half-ass anything, right? You know, is their exact words. So I hope nothing new in the next several months, but I'm sure there's going to be another book, you know, coming down the pipe about life and more correlations of what the new American dream is really all about. So
I
more to
even love
come.
that answer. Yeah, I even love that answer of like, I love these opportunities, but right now, no. Like, right, absolutely not. That'll come to me when I'm ready for it. That's fabulous.
Yep.
It was a wonderful question. I was waiting to see what the answer was going to be.
I love the book.
No. Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. And Patrick, welcome back. We are closing it out. We're at the end of our hour. If there's any final comments from anybody else, anything else we'd like to say, share, or just celebrate, feel free to speak up now or put it in the chat. And then if we're done, Stephen, I would love to send people to the right place to follow you to keep this conversation going, because this is an evolution of conversation and connection. How can we connect with you? Where's the best place to find you and keep this going?
Absolutely. You know, so I'm on LinkedIn, you know, just search Stephen Andrews and I'm there. Adam and I've already connected. I think I've connected already with a few other people. So you can find me there. Also on Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook's just at SOARX Consulting. Instagram is SOARX_consulting. And then I just put in the chat the link to actually go to the giveaway. So if you're wanting to buy a book, you might as well, the old saying, kill two birds, one stone, right? You can buy the book on the giveaway website and you're automatically entered for the giveaway. So you might as well do both, right? So you can also find it there. You can go to SOARXconsulting.com as well. The link that I just gave is shop.SOARXconsulting.com. But either link's fine to enter the giveaway. And please tell anybody that you know, if you want to become an affiliate. I'm also launching an affiliate program as well, that we can send out affiliate links. You would get a percentage of whatever sales your affiliate brings in. I just want to spread the word as much as possible. I want to affect so many lives, I hope, and really looking forward to the next several months. We're also giving away $1,000 every month starting in June. So if you know anybody who wants to join between now and June 5th, I think the drawing's on June 6th for that $1,000. Get them in and they'll be a part of it. We're going to give $1,000 away every month until we do the ultimate drawing in January.
I love it. I love it. Get the book, Grow Your Mind and Grow Your Bottom Line. This is awesome. We love giveaways. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Stephen. And more than anything, I really appreciate you being here and being present with us today and sharing your story and sharing a little bit into the life of Stephen Andrews and what others can do to create abundance for themselves. Everybody that has been here, of course, thank you so much for being part of the conversation, and thank you for being present. This will be recorded and posted, of course, but there's nothing like live conversation and connection. So thank you for being here, and everybody have a great weekend.
Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Had a lot of fun.
Thank you. It's great to hear. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Adam.